I call to order the informal plenary meeting of the General Assembly to hear a briefing by His Excellency Lakhdar Brahimi, Joint Special Representative of the United Nations and the League of Arab States for Syria. Before proceeding further, I should like to remind members that this informal meeting will end promptly at 11 a.m. I will now invite the Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Ban Ki-moon, to address the meeting.
The conflict in Syria, now in its 21st month, is reaching new and appalling heights of brutality and violence. The government has intensified its campaigns to root out opposition strongholds and has increased the shelling and airstrikes. Opposition elements have also stepped up their attacks. Some have estimated as many as 40,000 people have been killed.
I now give the floor to His Excellency Lakhdar Brahimi, Joint Special Representative of the United Nations and the League of Arab States for Syria, to brief the membership.
Fighting has expanded geographically to almost all parts of Syria and intensified very significantly. Countries in the region are already bearing the burden of hundreds of thousands of refugees. The only option everyone should opt for and work for is a negotiated political process. There is no trust between the parties.
I thank the Joint Special Representative for his briefing. I now open the floor for comments or questions. In order to effectively use the presence of the Joint Special Representative, may I request delegates to make their statements as concise as possible and not longer than 3 minutes. I thank you for your cooperation. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Syrian Arab Republic.
It is well known, Mr. President, that the Syrian government, from the very beginning of the crisis, was the first to call for dialogue. That call was also not responded to from some Arab, regional and international parties that sponsor the opposition, and I mean more specifically the armed opposition and the terrorist groups. Syria has cooperated with the observer mission, with Mr. Kofi Annan's mission, and welcomed the six-point plan as well as the Geneva Declaration. Mr. President, this international community must admit that there is international terrorism obtaining in Syria. I leave all this in your hands, Mr. President, and once again, I thank you for calling on Mr. Brahimi to brief the General Assembly on his endeavors following his mission to capitals in and outside the region. I thank you, sir.
I thank the distinguished representative of the Syrian Arab Republic. I understand that there are no more questions or speakers, so I will now close the meeting. The informal plenary meeting of the General Assembly is now concluded.